Hi everybody, welcome to the first of what we hope are many episodes of Amigos Arcade Adventures, where Aaron and I show off and fix, hopefully, our arcade collection. So today we're going to start with my favorite upright machine that I own. It's also one of the two that I own, Mario Brothers. Just as a little bit of background, I won this machine in an arcade auction. So this is my only trip to an arcade auction was in Tennessee. Eep and I drove down and we rented a U-Haul trailer, so I knew I couldn't come home empty-handed. And I paid $350 for this machine. I thought I did until they tack on the 17% buyer's fee and the 20% tax, and I walked out of there paying over $400 for this machine, which is quite pricey for this particular machine because this isn't even an original Mario Brothers machine. This is a Donkey Kong Jr. cabinet that has been repurposed as a Mario Brothers machine. It is, but it is what it is, and it's in pretty good shape. The thing I like about this game is the bezel. Nintendo has always very colorful bezels that surround their games. The side art is in not too bad shape. The control panel is a little bit rough here in the corner, but it does its job. Overall, it's in really good shape. But there is something wrong with this game. If you play it for a while, it starts to glitch out. The sprites start to get blocky and they become sort of deformed after a while until the sprite just becomes like this moving singular square. So what we're going to do is we're going to open this thing up and we're going to see if we can diagnose the problem.
Okay, so we've got the screwdriver here. Boat's cabinet has been handled in the way a lot of cabinets have been, which means someone didn't have the keys for this lock, and so they just drilled a couple holes and drove screws into the wood. So we're going to knock these out. Now while I'm doing that, if Boat wants to focus down a little bit, you can see the coating for the power cable has been, screwed up, pulled out, something. So I've already informed Boat that we're gonna have to put some black tape and eventually probably replace that. That's a little dangerous. We don't want to have any problems. So we've got one out here. I don't know if they added a plate for when they put the conversion in it.
I think that's what it is. I think one of those plates actually says Donkey Kong Jr. and the other one says Mario Brothers.
I can't see anything on them.
That's my recollection, at least.
Okay. Now, if you look on the back, this is pretty common. You've got some adjustments for the monitor. Now, I've not been in this before, and Boat said he hasn't either. So, and you can see this lock is completely gone. So someone just took it out. This is a set of jumpers, or a set of dip switches to provide some various options. One here, and this is a little guide to the monitor and how you would adjust it. So that's pretty standard. There's usually something attached to the back of these. Often it's for another game that's long gone. Well,
you know what's unique about these old Nintendo games is the wooden coin box. You don't see that in a lot of machines.
You absolutely don't. So looking into this thing, you can see that someone has jury-rigged the marquee. That's the first thing I noticed. This is a
that's not factory?
Yeah, this is an old...
Actually, you know who jury-rigged the marquee? It was me.
Was it?
I did that,
so you have been in there.
Yeah, I have been in there. I forgot about that.
So what we'll have to do at this point is to go into this cage and try to have a look. So that's what we're ratcheting.
This is the preferred position for unscrewing.
Yes.
The
Also, this is how I do my glamour shots. All right, we're on the last screw. I've already dropped one screw in here, so why not a pair? This is like Geraldo Rivera opening Capone's vault.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see what's back here. There it is. So what you've got here is and I've not seen one of these boards before, but you've got what as a sandwich board here, 2 boards with an interlock ribbon cable, which these things are straight from the devil for a bunch of reasons. We're going to take off this edge connector. But did I mention that if this ever works again, I'm not going to be held responsible.
Well,
You're forcing me to do this under protest. It would help. We don't have to, but we're going to have this attached to it.
that's okay.
Okay, and so here it is. Okay, guys, we've got the board pulled out here. Just a couple things, and this is something that always worries me when I see it. So, first thing Boat noticed when we set this down were these god-awful, old, hideous batteries. I mean, these things are beat down. So, our first inclination is just to pop these suckers out. But I thought to myself, I was like, Boat just ordered a high score board. This thing didn't save high scores. The hell are these things for? Well, a few clicks later, we have found out that these stored various game audits, probably money incoming or duration of play, who knows, but nothing that we're going to care about. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to take these batteries out and we're going to just leave them out. They won't have any bearing on the game. You can see from looking at this side of the board, again, I'm not messed with the Mario board, but the Donkey Kong, they're sort of all kind of the same in this area. You've got your EPROMs here, which actually the game data is stored. You've got your Sharp here. I'm just looking here to see which one of these is actually the processor. I'm not 100% sure. You've got a bank of dip switches here, and if you recall, on the back of the cabinet, there was a list of what these dip switch settings were. When you take these boards apart or take them out of these things, you've got to have a good hard look at these electrolytic capacitors here. These may have been changed. I'm looking at them. They look good, and it doesn't. Usually, you can tell if they've been changed because most people put more solder on them than what a radio machine would put on these. I used to work at a place that we used to put these electrolytic capacitors on, and what they do is they ran through what's called a radio machine, which is a machine that places these things into the board, in the holes in the board, and then it kind of crimps them off, and then they will go through a solder machine, a wave solder machine, and it'll come up and it'll solder all this stuff in. And so they always have an orderly bit of solder on them, not too much, a good amount. And when you see someone that's went through and recapped something, including me, by the way, but usually we use more solder than a wave solder would. You can sort of tell, and there may be some flux around. So these look like they're probably the original caps. Looking over the board here, I don't want to touch it too much because we're on carpet, but it looks, I don't see anything immediately jumping out. I don't see really any damage, which is good. The lands look fine. The lands are these little embedded wires that connect everything to each other, and they all look good. I've had machines come down that had lands ripped up or cut, and boy, game over, because they carry your voltage or your data or what have you, and they will kill your machine. This is called an edge connector. This is what connects. This is an interesting system. This edge connector connects to this little connector that adds another edge connector here that connects to the external cabling that feeds the controls, the video and the music and everything to the actual screen and to the actual control panel and whatnot. There's a standard now called the JAMA standard, Japanese arcade manufacturers something, but it's they all agreed on a standard, which they don't always adhere to, but I think this predates that by a good while. These are called I think these are interlock cables. These always make me nervous because this ribbon ink cabling here will get brittle. This seems pretty good, This doesn't seem too bad. I've seen it where you could literally just go like this and it'll just break. It's so brittle and old. I had a Tron, and this thing had multiple cables like this, and they were jacked up. And so a lot of times you'll have to basically make cables to replace those, and depending on what size that they've got here. So I'm going to flip this thing over, and we're going to have a look at the other side here and see how it looks. Again, this is a 2 boards on here. I'm going to flip this thing around too, so we can have a look at the back. Okay, and we don't want to scratch any of the stuff on the bottom. You gotta kind of be careful when you do this stuff. So we've got some more EPROMs over here. Again, I am not the arcade master by any stretch of the imagination, but I know a few things about electronics, and I've been in the arcade game business for a while, so I've picked up a few things. This looks like, you know, more of the same. You've got your what is that, volume controls here, I believe. Now, I'm not 100% sure about those.
Horizontal and vertical.
Is that what it is? Oh, you can't read them. I'm too blind. Yeah, so that's your video. Like I said, Nintendo, the Donkey Kong machine I've got has the audio amp and the speaker built into the monitor. I didn't get a good look at that. So
yeah, there's monitor controls on there too. So there's like 2 different ways.
Did your monitor have a volume control on it?
I think it does.
Yeah, so that's probably. I would wager that's what they did. Which these things are one of the first things to go bad on a Donkey Kong. These little lamps, and I know when I had my first Donkey Kong, I had rigged it up with it. I just took a speaker and an amp and just like I bought a Radio Shack, I just wired it in to accept the sound input coming from the board because it went bad and it was old and crummy. This board looks pretty good. I see a little discoloration right off the top. Now, this could be nothing, but you'll notice, I lost it now. It's not really that bad. It's probably just a fingerprint. You can see a little discoloration on a couple of these chips, but they don't look like they've been burned. I don't have the telltale smell when something gets burned. But what Boats is doing is, after it heats up, it's getting kind of, the screen gets kind of garbled. Probably what we'll do is we'll wait until his high scoreboard comes in, and plus I'm going to bring over some chip pullers. And what we'll probably do is, and this is low hanging fruit, mind you, but we'll take these ROMs out and we'll clean them off like pencil eraser and make sure that the leads are nice and shiny and put them back in. What worries me is if it's a heat related issue, then what you've got going on often is a part breaking down, and that will be a little more difficult to surmise. But there's always one tried and true method, which is plug the thing in and leave it on for about a couple hours, and then come back and touch the board and see what's burning up.
Yeah.
And generally, that's usually the one that's gone bad. I don't think these chips would be too difficult to replace. Now, the EPROMs, of course, someone could burn you off a set of those. But for the most part, it looks pretty good to me. Nintendo, I will say, they did a good job on their boards, and they have one of the higher quality PCBs that I've come across. Like I said, some of these older machines, I had a Frogger, one of the first boards I ever worked on, and it had LAN problems. It was cracked, and it was really thin. And being in the manufacturing game for a while, the different materials, the thicknesses of these boards, and how they're manufactured and how well they were manufactured becomes obvious as they get older. You'll see them start flaking off, and those LANs will pull right up or flake off, and you can tell this board's either been under an intense amount of heat or it's just a crumbly made, it didn't age well. Of course, it all comes down to the materials, the year it was made, that sort of thing. But this one doesn't look too bad. I'm going to look in between the layers here, just get a quick peek, see if I can see any signs that anything's been repaired. So I'm looking through here now, and it doesn't look like, I'm not seeing any of the telltale signs of someone doing a repair to this. Something else you can consider, I'm going to flip this back over to discuss it, is these boards obviously weren't made to last as long as they have. And so these little capacitors here are not meant to linger around for decades and decades. I mean, this board came out in '83. So what are we looking at there? About 34 years? Mm-hmm. and these things are not. I mean, they're literally chemically, they will change internally. So probably another angle, another avenue we can pursue is a cap kit. And if you're not familiar with those, you just get on eBay, and I mean, you can go through and a parts list and find all the caps and have them and then pick them one by one and get a real cheap deal. Or you can do what I do because I'm lazy. Is just go find someone that's got a cap kit for the particular board you've got. This thing's got a lot of capacitors on it. I mean, it's probably got dozens of them. And so, while I'm not seeing any of the telltale signs of bad caps, it doesn't necessarily mean they're good. I'm getting ready to recap my Amiga, and they all look great. That doesn't mean they're good. Sometimes they can break down internally. Sometimes they will do what's called barreling, where the tops will puff up, and become domed. And when that happens, you've got a problem. And also, that could happen on stuff much newer than this. That they just when I worked at the computer store, we would get these video cards or motherboards in all the time that would have these caps that are only a few years old. It's because a bad batch of caps came out of Asia and were sold by vendors to many different corporations and companies. NVIDIA comes to mind, HP. There's the two big companies that bought them. And so what you ended up with was a bunch of people using bad, inoperative caps on their video cards and motherboards, and these things would pop right out, after a year or two or even earlier, and they were trash. And that just came from one huge batch of bad caps. So it happens. These caps, if they were that bad, they'd already popped. They don't look bad. I mean, I'm looking at these, they're not discolored at all. There's no barreling at all. But again, it might be something we have to look at if the problem persists. So that's probably where we're going to leave it. I'd say the next episode will be us popping these chips out. I'm going to bring a chip puller in. We'll pop the chips out and clean the leads on them. And of course, we're going to take these batteries out. And then we will probably go ahead and install the high score kit, and we'll plug it back in and see how it works, and see if the problem persists. So I guess that'll do it this week on the arcade. We will be back next week with some news.